Hey, my name is Ned. I am a technical evangelist at Caspio, and today I am very excited to give you an on-demand demo of our platform. Our aim is to provide you with enough insight so by the end of the presentation, you can make an informed decision if Caspio aligns with your application needs. We'll start with a brief overview of Caspio, followed up by a demonstration where you'll see firsthand how we go about building applications. Thank you in advance for your time, and without further ado, let's dive right in. Caspio has been doing low code for nearly 23 years now. We've made this market, being one of the earliest pioneers in the low code space. We have over 250 employees with offices around the world. We serve over 15,000 customers in 150 countries, and we're adding new customers every day. On that note, we have over 150 customers that have been with Caspio for more than 10 years, which is really a testament to the platform's reliability and quality. So what makes Caspio so unique? Caspio's big differentiator, which sets us apart from typical off-the-shelf solutions and other low-code, no-code platforms, lies in our unlimited app user model. This type of model has tremendous cost savings. Consider a scenario where your company, let's say, has 50 employees and you need to pay $20 per user. This amounts to $1,000 per month. In contrast, Caspio offers a fixed fee, eliminating any concerns about incurring additional costs each time a new user is added. Again, the savings here can be really significant. Next, Caspio is enterprise ready. At the foundation, our infrastructure runs on AWS to give you extreme scalability on tap. We also provide a built-in database running on Microsoft SQL Server. In a nutshell, we've taken the powerful features of SQL, brought them into the cloud, and simplified the process of working with your data so it's just as easy as working with a spreadsheet. And you'll see later in the live demo how we've simplified this process. Caspio apps can be deployed on any website, whether it's a public-facing website or internal intranet, or content management systems such as SharePoint. Literally anywhere you want to capture or manage data. Next, we have worked really hard over the last 20 years focusing on security for the enterprise, so that Caspio is trusted across all industries and geographies, and especially by those IT departments that have strict security and compliance rules. In terms of integration options, you can customize, expand, and integrate based on your exact needs, and we will talk a little bit more about integration options in just a few moments. Lastly, Caspio offers a standards-based development approach, allowing developers and those that are a bit more tech-savvy to extend their applications using HTML, CSS, JavaScript, SQL, and even REST API. Moving on, you can see a wide range of use cases that can be created with Caspio's platform for many different departments and industries. So if you have a need, let's say, for a custom CRM that's completely tailored to your organization's requirements, that is certainly something that you can create. Next, we offer a choice of several data centers located around the world so that your data and applications are hosted in the region closest to you for optimal performance. We have these operations around the world so that we can serve our 15,000 global customers according to their optimal time zone and data hosting requirements. As you can see from this list, there are many well-known companies that trust and use Caspio for their diverse application needs. From applicant tracking systems to student management and even support ticketing systems, Caspio serves a wide array of needs with utmost reliability and effectiveness. Next, Caspio has always been recognized as the market leader. You're definitely welcome to check out our customer reviews on both G2 and Capterra to see what our customers have to say about us. With this illustration, I wanted to show you exactly how Caspio functions. At the very front is an example of a searchable directory that you may want to publish on your website. The beauty of Caspio is that we take care of all the heavy lifting while staying completely behind the scenes, and that's what the very last image is for. You can embed your application seamlessly on your website so it looks entirely like your own interface with your custom branding and unique experience. And that's what the middle image is for. So in this illustration, you can see the front image is the Caspio interface embedded into the website, which is the second image. And then Caspio is completely behind the scenes. We host the data and we make your applications accessible via the web. Alternatively, if you don't need a web page for your application, you can just deploy it as a direct URL link and immediately share the link with others. I will briefly mention these options during our live demo in a little bit. All of this saves you a ton of effort so you can just focus on your core business while Caspio handles the rest. Next, let's cover some of the ways you can customize and integrate your applications. As you know, Caspio is a low-code platform, meaning that coding is not required for vast majority of what you create. But if you are web savvy and you want to add code to create custom functions, you can. We make it easy to insert industry standard technologies such as HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and even SQL statements if you have those skills. And to take it a step further, if you have programming resources available to you, we offer a REST API and outgoing webhooks so you can extend your applications using any programming language you prefer. Caspio offers established standards for customizing your applications, so there is no proprietary language to learn. The platform provides many built-in connectors that make it easy to move data between Caspio and other systems like Dropbox, Box, Google Drive, and OneDrive. You can also implement single sign-on so employees can sign into your Caspio applications using their existing company login and password. This leverages the security of user management already put in place by your IT department through Microsoft Active Directory, for example. Caspio also provides secure and PCI compliant payment processing through our built-in connectors to PayPal and Stripe. And last, our Zapier integration connects Caspio with over 2,000 cloud applications if you want to integrate with Office 365, Salesforce, MailChimp, and so forth. Really, the possibilities here are endless, and it just depends on your specific needs. Next, we have compliance. I won't go through all of these in detail, but I'd like to point out a couple here. First, we work with highly regulated industries like healthcare to provide HIPAA compliance, and the education sector for FERPA compliance. And Caspio is a certified partner with Amazon Web Services for our data center operations. And being a global company, we also meet all the data privacy requirements for Europe and GDPR. And finally, before we dive into our demo today, I would like to briefly mention how one can get started with Caspio. And I'll frame this around two different pathways for success. The first path, the one that you see on the left, is for you to build your applications on your own and will help you along the way. The second path, the one on the right, is when Caspio builds whatever you need, providing a custom solution based on your exact requirements. If you go with the do-it-yourself path, we have a range of services to make sure you're successful. That includes live training, video tutorials, online help center, 24/7 support, and even expert sessions. Now, on the other path, where Caspio builds your apps for you, we serve as your virtual team of experts executing on vision. We can work on a single project and hand it over to you, or we can plan, develop, and maintain your applications on an ongoing basis. We partner with you to understand your business goals and then line up the resources to fulfill your requirements. And by partnering with Caspio, you'll always have resources for ongoing requests and maintenance, security and compliance expertise when you need it, and all of this is available to you from the team with many, many years of experience. Now, with that said, let's go inside the platform and let's take a look at the quick demo that we prepared today. All right, so for my demo today, I have decided to put together a very simple contact management system that allows us to input data using some fields. We can also set the contact status. And then on the flip side, I have the ability to manage my contacts by being able to filter, do a simple inline edit, and if needed, I can go into the details view, review the contact information, and also input some internal notes. Now, one thing I will mention before we go into Caspio to build this out is there's no possible way for me to show you everything in the platform in the limited time that we have. A lot of this you're going to have to learn on your own, but hopefully by the end of this demo, you're going to be able to make an informed decision as to if Caspio is going to be the right solution for your application needs. And if there's still any pending questions, you can always contact our team, and somebody will definitely be able to tell you if it's going to be the right fit. So now let's go into Caspio and let's see how quickly we can develop this simple interface where we can input data and output data on a different web page. When you first log into your Caspio account, you're going to be able to see all the applications that you've developed as long as you've had your Caspio account. Now, to begin building a brand new application, it's very simple. You click on the button up here to create an app, and you have two choices on how you can begin. If you have some data offline, let's say in a CSV format or some kind of comma delimited file, you can import your data and then build your applications on top of your data. Or you can start building your application from a blank template. I'll begin this way. Next step is very simple. Give your application a name. You're going to have your own naming convention, but I'm going to call this contact management and click finish. And then you should be able to see that application container listed here on the home screen. From here, it's very simple. Go ahead and click on open, and you're going to be able to see these objects on the left-hand side in the left panel. And these are the objects we're going to be using to construct our application. The very first object that's always highlighted by default is the Overview tab. This screen here is mostly informational for you to be able to see some helpful tips. You're going to be able to see some metrics in terms of resources that you're using in your application. You can also leave notes. But the most important place where you want to begin is always going to be the tables object. Tables are the foundation of any app that you develop. That's where all of our data is going to reside. And because Caspio is a relational database platform, you're going to be able to develop one-to-one, one-to-many, and also many-to-many relationships. Now, in my application, it's going to be very simple. All I need is one table to capture contact information. Now, what I could do is I could create my table from scratch by inputting my own fields if I know what fields I want to collect. But if I want some assistance in terms of what fields I would like to have inside this table, if I go back out to the tables menu, you're going to be able to see this icon for AI Assistant. Click on that and then enter in the prompt here and ask the AI Assistant, create a contact table, hit enter, and then the AI Assistant will come back with a suggestion on what fields you might want to include inside your contacts table. Now, you can start with these fields. You can ask it to create this table, and you're still going to be able to modify and edit your fields accordingly. So for example, you can see that my first name is text255. I'm going to leave that as text255 because I don't suppose that the first name is ever going to exceed 255 characters. Now, if I want to add a notes field, for notes field, that's going to be long text, so I'm going to choose and opt in for text 64,000. I may also want to have a status field for each contact, and for that, I'm also going to leave text 255. And lastly, I may also want to add date created, and we'll turn that into a timestamp so that we can capture what date and time we submitted that contact into a table. So now if I'm happy with my fields, I can go ahead and hit save to save my table, and let's give this a name. I'll just call this CM for contact management, TBL for table, contacts. And just like that, I was able to build out my very first table. If you no longer want to use the AI assistant, you can just X out of that, and you will no longer see it here inside the screen. Now that we have our table created, I do want to point out some advanced functionality on the table as well before we build our form. If you click on more and click on triggered actions allow us to automate a lot of procedures in the back end. That way we can eliminate or avoid a lot of human intervention. So for example, if I say create a triggered action, Caspio uses Blockly framework to insert these widgets and snap them in place inside Canvas, kind of like Lego pieces. And what this allows us to do is, let's say we wanted to run the action on insert of data, update and delete of data event. So if we insert, update, and delete something inside a contacts table, I can have that same action happen in an entirely different table. So for example, if you're building a history log table or inventory management, if I, let's say, place an order on the web for a quantity of 10 of something, we can subtract that 10 from your inventory. And if that falls below a certain threshold, we can check a box to place that item on back order. We can also combine different actions. So for example, I can send an email and maybe even notify an admin user to let them know, hey, this item, is low in inventory. Let's add more so that more people can buy that item. So definitely explore this feature. It is advanced in Caspio, but it does allow you to automate many procedures in the back end. And it does get quite interesting once you start working with logic, if and then statements, loops, text, number, date fields, where you can calculate, change the status to, let's say, pending if it's 1 day before the event. Now, if you're not saving any changes to your triggers, you can always click on the tables menu. You don't have to save, and it's going to return you back to the list of all of your tables. And now let's see how we can quickly build a web form. To build a form, we're going to navigate over to data pages. Data pages, or as I like to call them, widgets, is what allows us to build our applications 10 to 20 times faster than using traditional method. Data pages are simply interfaces that you're going to eventually end up embedding into your own website. So to build a data page, we simply click on the button up here, and this is going to launch Caspio's point and click data page wizard. You can see we can build different types of input forms, update forms, password recovery. We can build different types of reporting with different layouts, tabular, gallery, list, even pivot tables. We can create calendars. So if you're building, let's say, an appointment tracking system or event management, we can build charts. Charts are for KPIs and metrics and to see a visual representation of your data. And if you're a bit more tech savvy, you can build some HTML data pages. So now let's see how we can build a web form. I'm going to select submission form. We're going to hit next. For my data source, I'm going to use my contacts table that we created just a moment ago. We only have one table in our application, so let's ensure that's selected. And as for the data page name, this is for your internal eyes only, so you can maybe call this create contact form. You can apply a different style. Styles are all about the aesthetics. We give you some preloaded styles that you can pick from with their own color palette. However, if your company has a completely different set of colors for your brand, you can always go to the styles object, and here you can modify color of your labels, color of your fields, buttons, spacing, just about anything you want. We even give you access to the CSS. So if you have a slightly higher technical acumen, you can supersede our own style with your own CSS to override Caspio's style. So for my example today, we're going to pick blue. And then for the localization, you can see we gave you some preloaded ones. Localizations are all about regional settings. You can change the date format, the currency, the language. I'm going to stick with English and simply hit next. Now the wizard is asking me, what fields do you wish to use in the web form? Well, you can move one field at a time, or you can move them all to the right. Now, the one field that I don't need to include on my web form is going to be my notes field. I will include notes in my report, so when I go to the details of a contact, I can simply add my internal notes for that contact. But on the submission form, you may or may not want to include that field. It's entirely up to you. Let's continue. And then once we reach the properties, here we're going to be able to select each field on the left-hand side one at a time, and we can make modifications using this drop-down here for form element. And you can see a slew of options on how we can modify each field on the web form. So for example, my first name, I'm going to leave that as a text field, and I may want to make that field required. Same thing for last name, I'll make that field required. And if I want to see what my form looks like, at any point you can click on the preview button, and it's going to show you what the form looks like. You can now see how the first and last name are both required fields. If I want to make my form in 2 columns, maybe position my label on top of my field, I can go back to the wizard, and we can take advantage of what's called section. You can insert as many sections as you want throughout the form. There's no limit. So for this section, let's say this section applies to all of my fields. I will say number of columns 2, label position on top, click preview, and now you can see what my form looks like. If I wish to turn the status field into a dropdown, I'll go back to that field. I will simply say dropdown. Now, one thing I'll point out here, you can add your own custom values by typing it down below, but if you do have a lookup table that contains the list of all of your options, you don't have to do custom values. You can quickly link to that lookup table and automatically select the table that contains all of those statuses. I don't have that lookup table, so I'm going to revert back to custom values, and I will simply say select status, delete the value. You don't want this to be stored in your table. And let's add some options. So maybe we can say lead, maybe we can say prospect, and we can also say customer. If you hit preview again, you will see what the form looks like. I can go ahead and click on the dropdown, and I will be able to see a list of all of those options. Now, if you want to add some headings throughout the form, it's also very simple to do. What we can do is maybe above the first name, I will insert what's called an HTML block, and you can add as many HTML blocks as you want. And I will simply go ahead and say maybe personal information, highlight my text, maybe make that text bold, and maybe change the heading to heading 3, slightly bigger. Now, one thing that you'll notice here is The HTML block is now going to be included with the rest of the fields, so my section is also going to put that text in two different columns. So one slight modification I need to make, I need to add another section here. And for section 2, I will say 2 columns, but for section 1, I can just go back to 1 column. Now when I hit preview, you will see there's my heading above my form. And let's just go ahead and add one more HTML block above the address field, just so that you can see what that looks like. So I will select my address field, I will insert an HTML block, and above this HTML block, I will add one more section. I will say number of columns 1, and underneath that HTML block, I will add a section, and I will simply say number of columns 2. Now inside HTML block 2, I will just say address information, put it in bold, heading 3. All I've done is I've placed the HTML block in its own section for both of these. That way it doesn't go into 2 columns with the rest of the fields. Once I hit preview, you will now see address info and personal info. And if we're happy with the changes that we made, let's say we love the way our form looks, you can close the preview tab and then simply just save your changes by clicking on finish. Now, one thing that you may want to consider is if you click next, you can change what the confirmation message says once you submit the form. You also have a lot of messaging options up here. So upon submission of the form, you can trigger emails and SMS to go out to notify users that the submission was made. I'm not going to make any of these changes. I'm just going to click on finish to save. And that's how easy in Caspio it is to build a web form. Now, if you wish to put this form on your website, you're going to click the deploy link, enable deployment status, and then Caspio gives us 4 different deployment methods, with the embed model being the most popular. All you need to do is copy the snippet of code, paste that code into your website. In my example today, we're going to use Weebly. Weebly is a very simple CMS, content management system, that allows us to build a website very quickly without any coding. However, you can also use your own internal HTML files, your own intranet. You can use Webflow. You can use WordPress, GoDaddy. Caspio's code is compatible with just about any website builder available today. In addition to being able to embed into a website, if you don't have a website, you can also use a direct URL link that you can share with anyone. And if you share this link, they're going to be immediately be able to see that web form. We also have iframe, and we also have .NET for SharePoint. Now, we're going to be embedding our data page in just a few minutes, but for now, let's go ahead and close that screen, and let's continue building out the rest of our application. So for now, we're going to build a data page. Let's go down to reports, and let's go with the tabular format. If you look at the illustration below, this is essentially what we're creating: the ability to search, see the results, and drill into details. Again, I no longer need to build a form. We already created the form to input our contact information. Now we want to output the data. So we're going to select reports, and let's go with the tabular format. We're going to click next. And all we need to do is just follow the instructions. For my data source, again, it's going to be my contacts table because I'm submitting information into that table. I also want to output the information from that table. Let's give this a name, perhaps manage contacts. I will use the same style, blue, and same localization of English, and continue. Now it's asking me, do you need to have an interactive search form or a predefined criteria? Yes, go ahead and show a search form. I want the results to appear underneath the search form, and I want to display the results on the initial load. What that means is when your web page loads, not only do you see the search form on top, but you also see the results directly underneath right away. Now, if you're doing filtering, you can also filter data based on a predefined criteria. So instead of seeing a search form, let's say you're only interested in seeing the data for state of California. You can predefine that, and then your data will just be showing data for the state of California. But I'd like the ability to search my data and continue. Now it's asking me, what fields do you wish to use in the search form? So let's just keep things simple. Let's go with first name and last name. Of course, you can include any search field that you want. You can do date range, you can have drop downs, but because we're limited on time, I'm simply going to use first and last name and click continue. Now for my comparison type, when you're modifying both of your search fields, I like to use something called contains. It's going to give you a broader results range. It's kind of like keyword search. If you type in letter A for first name and click search, it's going to return all the first names that contain the letter A. Same thing with last name. Also, you don't have to use a text field for your search fields. We have a lot of options on how you can modify these search fields. So you could have a drop down. You can even do something that's called autocomplete, which is like Google search. So if you type in a letter, you're going to see a list of options immediately underneath from your table, what's available based on that letter. And as you continue typing in that search field, it's going to remove other options. So it works kind of like Google search. So let's continue. Now, what fields do you wish to use in the results page? So let's have a couple of fields here on the results page, and the remaining fields we can include in the details page. So we're going to hit next. Now it's asking me, should the end user, person that's looking at my report on the web, be able to edit data on the results page? So just be careful with this. If you want your data to be read-only, don't check these. But if you want them to be able to update information, let's say using inline edit, you're going to see a little warning here. It's a guardrail from Caspio letting you know, hey, as a security precaution, it is recommended that you enable authentication on this data page. Authentication object allows you to build a login interface that allows the user first to log in with their credentials before they look at the data. Now, in my demo today, we're not going to build that out, but we have plenty of videos that teach you how to build these login screens for your users to log in. So I will just ignore that warning because I'm using fictitious data anyway. There's no actual real data, and we will use inline delete as well. Click next. Not going to make any modifications to my results page fields. Let's keep that the way it is. Let's continue. Let's show 25 contacts per page. You can also sort data if you'd like. So based on maybe the date created field, maybe show me the most recent entry first. And then it's asking me, do you want to have a details page? You can choose to disable the details page, or you can enable a details page. Let's continue. And in my details view, likely I will want to see all my fields pertaining to my contact. So I will go ahead and click next. And finally, here in the details view, when it comes to configuring properties, you can make all of your fields read-only, in other words, display only, where the user doesn't have any ability to modify, or you can make these fields modifiable. It's completely up to you. For example, for me, I'd like to be able to change the status, so I will create that to be a dropdown. So my options for my status are lead, prospect, and customer. And for my notes, I would like this to be a text area so that I can input some notes. Maybe we close the sale, maybe we need to follow up with this user. Just note that you can build something much more sophisticated where you actually have a field for follow-up date. And you can also send an email reminder to yourself, maybe a day before the appointment. All of those things can be accomplished using our triggers and also our tasks. Now, if I want to see what I created, I can click on preview. So here's the ability to search. Obviously, it says no records found because we haven't added any contacts to our database yet, so you're not going to be able to see that information. But let's go ahead and close this tab and click finish to save our changes. Just like that, in a couple of minutes, we were able to build an input form to add contact information and a report to output information from the table. Let's see how we can publish this to our website so that we can add contacts and also be able to manage our contacts. Now, I did mention earlier that I'm using Weebly to deploy my application, so that's what we're going to do. Again, Weebly is a very simple content management system that you can build a website without any coding. Now, to deploy our Caspio application, we're going to grab our deploy code for, let's say, manage contacts. We're going to enable deployment status. We're going to grab our embed code, copy it, go to Weebly, and then under manage contacts, all we need to do in Weebly is move this embed code widget into our canvas, click inside it, and paste the Caspio code and hit publish. Now, before we go to our website, let's go ahead and deploy our second data page, which is our submission form. So we're going to grab the deploy code for the submission form. We're going to copy that deploy code, go back to Weebly, and very simple, just drag over the embed code widget, click inside it, paste our Caspio code, hit publish, and now let's go to our website and check out all the functionality. So now anybody who visits this URL of my website, they have the ability to input contact, and they also have the ability to manage the contacts. And let's go ahead and see the behavior. So we're going to go back to create contact. Let's go ahead and make one submission, maybe John Doe. John Doe at contact.com. Phone number can be something fictitious, and then address can be 123 maybe Easy Street. That can be Mountain View, California. And then we'll just create a random zip code and select the status to maybe be a lead. Hit submit. Your submission was successful. Again, you have the ability to modify this text to whatever you want. Let's go to manage contacts, and right away I'll be able to see that entry that just came in. And from here, I can go to details. I can do an inline edit. And by the way, inside the inline edit, you can also create these to be drop downs and text areas and radio buttons. And then also in the details view, not only do you see the contact's information, but now I can add some notes. I can also change the status of from lead to prospect and customer and update that information. Believe me when I tell you, this is really just the tip of the iceberg in what you can do in Caspio. It's a very powerful enterprise platform that allows you to build a much more robust and sophisticated systems. You are welcome to check out Caspio's library of apps if you go to resources and app marketplace. If you take a look at our support ticketing system, for example, you can demo the functionality for customer view, employee view, and manager view. As I mentioned earlier, you can have different roles in your application, and based on the role, they're going to be able to see different information and different capability based on their privileges on what they can do. So feel free to demo these applications so you can see just how powerful of an application you can create in Caspio once all these data pages come together, and with slightly modifying the aesthetics, the padding, the margins, and things like that. So thank you for your time in the demo. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, don't forget to contact our team for support and help, and definitely to clarify if you have any worries or concerns if Caspio is not going to be the right fit. Again, this is really just the tip of the iceberg. Feel free to follow along with the video if you wish to recreate that contact management system. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate your time, and let us know if we can help you with building out your applications.